Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content, just like this.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So I'm just a day removed from seeing Morbius and doing my review, and my thoughts on the movie haven't really changed all that much. In the bigger Marvel picture, I don't really feel like it's as bad as people say that it is, and that the backlash has more to do with diehard MCU fans just attacking anything that's not in the MCU.
Oh no, finish your tweet. That's fine. Just give us a second. There you go, hashtag it.
I mean, we've seen this all before with WB and DC movies as well as Sony movies. But the reality is that Morbius has a lot of the same issues that the MCU movies have. It's just that brand loyalty has blinded a lot of people from seeing the truth. Morbius is not a good movie, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but one of the biggest reasons is the MCU. You see, when I talk about the MCU effect, people don't realize that that doesn't just apply to audience reactions. The MCU effect also applies to how the studios look at making these movies.
That makes sense.
Because of the success of the MCU, other studios got it in their head that that was the only way to make successful comic book movies. And then they decided they had to model themselves after the MCU formula if they ever wanted to achieve the same financial success. And that is one of the biggest reasons why we receive a lot of uninspiring and boring entertainment now.
Oh, you're right. And when you're right, you're right. And you're always right.
I'll give the MCU credit for this. Initially, in Phase 1 and parts of Phase 2, they at least had a very good plan, creating a shared universe which had never really been tried before with comic book properties, and they even went on to execute it to much success. Now eventually, at least for me, that formula became played out, and the process of making a movie that had to fit into a pre-established universe became very boring to me.
I don't give a fuck.
Mostly because it doesn't allow filmmakers to be creative and make the best film possible. And the result of that is very vanilla and redundant entertainment. And then you have studios like WB and Sony who, instead of starting their own trend, decided they were going to play catch up instead, which resulted in the most expensive version of Keeping Up with the Joneses I have ever seen.
I'd buy that for $1.
And now we have Sony trying to establish their own connected universe with these Spider-Man characters that they own. And they're taking the MCU approach of apparently giving every Spider-Man villain their own solo film in hopes of building to a bigger shared universe story. The problem with that is that this trend isn't all that interesting anymore, and they're going about it in the most convoluted way possible. The rest of this video will contain spoilers for the end of Morbius. I don't think many people give a shit, but a spoiler warning is in effect anyway.
You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
So Sony continues the tired trend of after-credit sequences at the end of Morbius, like the followers that they are, and in a desperate attempt to connect this movie to a larger Spider-Man story, as well as the MCU, the end of this movie features the interdimensional rips that we see at the end of No Way Home. And Michael Keaton's MCU Vulture character is transported to the Venom Morbius universe, which apparently, by the way, has its own version of Spider-Man.
No shit.
Who obviously is not Tom Holland because he's in the MCU. So either that's going to be Toby or Andrew, or we're going to get a fourth incarnation of Spider-Man. All I can say is I hope it's not Miles Morales, because the last thing that this universe needs, which already has problems, is a knockoff Spider-Man. So this whole Vulture interdimensional jump has a lot of weirdos who spend too much time thinking about these things, trying to connect all the dots.
I'm having trouble.
Morbius director Daniel Espinosa tried to shed some light on all of this in an interview with Cinema Blend, to which he said, quote, "At the end of Venom Let There Be Carnage and No Way Home, it is clearly established that it is possible for characters to transfer from one multiverse to another. The events of No Way Home had the effect of transferring Venom and Vulture back and forth between the MCU and the Venom universe." So not only is he going through mental gymnastics to try to explain this nonsense, what he says actually contradicts what happens in No Way Home.
Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
It's pretty well established that the jumps in No Way Home are a result of those characters knowing the true identity of Spider-Man. And they were actually drawn to the MCU because of that knowledge. These jumps are not supposed to be random. They are a direct result of Doctor Strange's spell opening the floodgates to every character who has ever known Peter Parker's identity. So in theory, there should be no reason for Vulture to end up in the Venom and Morbius universe.
Why?
Especially considering at the conclusion of No Way Home, everyone who knew about Peter Parker's identity had their mind erased. Therefore, his prior knowledge of Peter's identity does not exist. So what does all of this mean? There's clearly no coordination between Sony and Marvel Studios about how all of this is supposed to work. And then directors like Daniel Espinosa are forced to interpret the rules of this universe to try to make everything make sense.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
And this is what I talk about all the time, and how shared universes are a burden on creativity. Instead of allowing Espinosa to create his own self-contained story about Morbius, he's left to try and make sense of the mess that Sony and Disney are creating. By them shoehorning this shared universe bullshit into this movie, they are effectively making themselves, as well as the director of this movie, look like complete idiots.
What an idiot! Oh, what a loser!
There's another quote out there about how Daniel Espinosa had no idea why Sony added the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man image to the trailer of Morbius when that wasn't really a part of the movie. In fact, there's a lot of things in the Morbius trailer that aren't really in the movie, so you have to wonder if they were kind of baiting people into thinking that this was more connected with Spider-Man than it actually was.
Fuck me, right?
Again, I find it very hard to believe that these companies with endless resources can't seem to get their shit together and tell a cohesive story. Just using movies to set up other movies is not really compelling storytelling. Venom Let There Be Carnage was just one big setup to get Eddie into the MCU so he could leave a piece of the symbiote behind for Tom Holland to get, I guess. And Morbius was one big setup to get Vulture into his universe so that way they can do some half-assed version of the Sinister Six, I guess. When the sole purpose of your movie is to set up another movie, you might not be making a good movie. So stop the fucking shared universe bullshit and just give us one complete, cohesive story.
Anybody care about what I want?
I do.
Shut up. Get out.
So let me know what you thought about all this in the comments down below. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell for notifications, and I'll see you next time right here on Real Shift. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Y'all be cool. Nah.